Something I've seen people talking about recently is whether Lewis Hamilton is starting to crack under the pressure from Red Bull and Max Verstappen. Due to the greater threat posed by an outside team and driver, Hamilton is having to work harder for his victories than he has in recent history. It's unquestionable that the RB16B is a much stronger package compared to its predecessors. One of the main areas in which they have gained is the engine department, where Honda have done a great job in designing the best power unit possible in their final year in Formula 1. Red Bull also developed very well over the winter by ironing out the balance issues they experienced last year. Combine this with Mercedes' struggles early on, and we have arguably the most tightly contested championship battle in the turbo hybrid era. The opening 6 rounds for the most part have been absolutely thrilling to watch. For Lewis on the other hand, they have been more stressful than normal. For the first time in his career, Max Verstappen has all the tools he needs to win a maiden world championship. Thus, he is hungrier than ever to make that happen. So far, we have seen him consistently give the 7-time champion a run for his money. In both Imola and Spain, the Dutchman got the better getaway and passed Hamilton going into turn 1. On the safety car restart in Portugal, Max pounced while the Brit was distracted to move up into P2. However, in the case of the last 2 races I mentioned, Lewis fought back to reclaim those positions and go on to take the wins as well. The only race out of the first 4 where he made a critical error under pressure was when chasing down Max in Imola and running into the gravel trap when attempting to lap George Russell. This mistake would go unpunished partly due to luck, as Bottas and Russell collided not too long after his off. However, even though he was able to unlap himself, it was still a great recovery drive back up to P2 to limit the damage done by Verstappen. After that, the F1 circus went to 2 circuits that favoured Red Bull's car more than it did the W12. In Monaco, Lewis had a difficult weekend and could only manage to finish P7. But in Baku, he was a lot more comfortable in the car and was able to extract the most he could from it during qualifying and the race. As we know, after Max Verstappen's tyre blowout, Hamilton had an opportunity to come away from the weekend with the big points haul in his favour. So for the standing start with 2 laps to go, the Brit made the perfect getaway to move just ahead of Checo. But then, he locked up, went straight on, and damn near gave Mark Webber a heart attack. Now, to Sergio's credit, he forced Hamilton into a difficult position to turn in. However, the real reason Lewis couldn't stop was because he accidentally hit the brake magic button while upshifting. This caused his brake bias to shift all the way forward, meaning he couldn't slow the car down in time. Such an easy to make but costly error was extremely tough to take for the reigning world champion. And to be fair, it would be for anyone. Most Formula 1 fans were happy to see him not win with Verstappen out, and even went as far to say that he's cracking under the pressure of the championship fights. According to some, Lewis has had an easy ride, apart from 2016 when Nico Rosberg beat him to the title, and now he's got more competition, he's making more mistakes. Now, even if you don't like Hamilton and just wish that somebody else could win for a change, it would be extremely naive to think that he chokes in crucial moments. When we talk about some of the greatest drivers of all time, they all have many traits in common. But the one that stands out above all for me is the ability to perform when it counts. From making important overtakes, to overcoming obstacles, to pulling out the perfect lap in qualifying, these clutch moments appear all the time. Depending on the race and how tight the championship battle is, some races have higher leverage pressure moments, which simply means they carry more significance. Since we're still so early on in the season, we can't say for sure that any of the races we've had so far are or will be considered defining moments come the end of the year. As the season progresses and more races are completed, the greater the impact the remaining races will have if the championship is close. Let's take a look at the results from the first 6 races from 2017. This had a pretty competitive start to the season and is similar to 2021 in that it had 2 drivers from different teams scrapping it out for the title. By race 6, which was the Monaco Grand Prix, Sebastian Vettel was in the lead of the championship with 129 points compared to Hamilton with 104. In that same time frame, the German achieved 3 wins and 3 P2s, whereas Lewis had 2 wins, 2 P2s, a 4th and a 7th to his name. Yet ultimately, it was the Brits who prevailed through some brilliant driving, particularly after the summer break. From Belgium through to Austin, Hamilton won 5 out of the 6 races during that stretch, as Vettel suffered 2 DNFs, one being the infamous crash in Singapore. Nobody was predominantly to blame, as it was deemed a racing incident. But looking back, Vettel didn't need to take the risk by moving across the track so aggressively. He could have stayed on the racing line and left plenty of room for Raikkonen and Verstappen to fight amongst themselves. With Hamilton down in P5 in an uncompetitive Mercedes, Vettel had the chance to do some real damage. But in the end, he only gave his rival a golden opportunity, and Lewis took it with both hands. This wasn't necessarily a demonstration of his ability to perform under pressure, but more so his competitors tripping over themselves. A better example to use is 2018, where Ferrari had an even better car than the year before. For the first half of the season, it could be argued that they had the slightly faster car compared to the W09. Nevertheless, the difference maker that year wasn't the car, it was Hamilton's driving. There are 4 key pressure moments from that season that I'd consider to be high leverage. The first one was in Silverstone. Hamilton, starting on pole for his home Grand Prix, had both Ferraris waiting and ready to pounce in P2 and P3. He gets a poor start and concedes a position not only to Vettel, but also his teammate. Raikkonen looks like he's about to do the same, but Lewis manages to cover it off temporarily. But then, the fin broke too deep into turn 3 and tagged Hamilton's right rear tyre, sending him into a spin and to the back of the pack. Eventually, he would recover incredibly well to P2, but I'd say that Vettel was the one who was better under pressure in that scenario. He got the better starts, managed the race well under the safety car, and made a well-calculated move for the lead with 6 laps remaining to take his 4th win of 2018. However, just 2 weeks later, the roles reversed in Hockenheim. In what is considered one of Lewis's greatest ever wins, Seb was the one who made the critical error by crashing out from the lead of his home race. On lap 44, light rain began to fall and the track became wet in some places but remained dry in others. On a fresh set of ultra-soft tyres, Hamilton was seconds faster than those ahead of him as he made a charge for the leading 3. Then on lap 52 of 67, Sebastian Vettel went off at turn 13 and retired from the Grand Prix, leaving Lewis to pick up the pieces and amazingly win from 14th on the grid. Monza was another big opportunity for Ferrari and Vettel to try and beat Hamilton and put him under more pressure. But once again, the man was able to use all the hostility and negative energy to his advantage as he outdueled both Ferraris on their own turf. Then the final blow came in Singapore, a track which traditionally hasn't been a strong one for the Silver Arrows. But under the lights, on the most challenging circuit on the calendar, Hamilton blitzed the competition with one of the greatest laps in F1 history. The man is clearly made for the big moments, and knows how to maximize his reward when his rivals are down. If we're talking about how this dude handles pressure, then just look at his performance in his rookie season against the reigning back-to-back world champion Fernando Alonso in the same team. He was completely and totally unfazed by the Spaniard, as well as a prime Felipe Massa and Kimi Raikkonen at Ferrari. In his sophomore year in 2008, he took the first world championship of his career in dramatic style. At the final corner on the final lap, Hamilton overtook Timo Glock to move up into 5th place, the position he needed to take the title. This season, all his experience will play a huge role in helping him take on both Verstappen and Checo, because don't forget, who was the one keeping him at bay in Baku? It was the man who eventually went on to win the race. For sure, Lewis is by no means 100% perfect. Even he admits to human error every now and again. But whenever he does make a mistake, it's magnified a lot more compared to others because he isn't known for making them often. That and the fact that he's always at the front of the grid, so he's constantly under the spotlight. Red Bull and Verstappen will need to keep their feet on the ground and keep finding ways to improve if they are going to stop Hamilton and Mercedes from winning their 8th world championships. What do you think? Does Hamilton get better with more pressure and competition? Be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. Drop this video a like if you enjoyed, share it around with your friends, and subscribe to the channel with bell notifications to keep up to date with the latest content in the future. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.